Welcome in everybody to week 10 of the weekly roundup. This week in the SFA was chaotic, crazy. We had glitches, we had crashes, we had upsets, we had blowouts. This week was just ridiculous. First week of the college football playoff committee, and they did not make their job easy this week. So let's get in to see how this action unfolded. It all started with this game right here. I mean, Tennessee coming into the game 8-1, number 2 in the nation, against Buffalo, who's won 4 straight games, and they get the dub. Tennessee had a 14-7 lead at one point. We're leading 21-7, and Buffalo came back, and Buffalo ended up throwing an interception on their last drive, giving Tennessee 2 minutes, all of their timeouts, and they ended up throwing a pick as well when they were on the 50-yard line. So Buffalo got the dub in one of the biggest upsets in SFA history, and this was coach on coach crime. You had Coach Pinstripe and Coach Nick battling out. And then here you have another crazy game. Texas Tech. This is a team who's 2-7, but I mean, if they only played 3 quarters, they would probably be 4-3 or 5-2. You know, they've blown multiple fourth quarter leads, and this week was no different. They entered the fourth quarter up, or I believe they entered tied, and then they they were up 7, and then they're up 14, and then they blow it to tie the game, and then they lose in overtime to drop to 2-7. Coach Fink survives. Kansas dream season is still alive. But yeah, definitely another chant. And then we had scoregami here. Minnesota 59 to Illinois 49. I mean, there's no defense here. You had Brockington, Chancla, Allstat, Kim Metal, just SFA players going crazy. Jamison Crowder, all over the field. But really, the part of this game that was ridiculous, as you see there, Travion Boykin, 8 touchdowns, 544 yards, like an absolute boss. And he added 15 yards on the ground. But, I mean, who needs to rush when you're passing for 500 yards? I mean, like, wow. And this division just keeps getting crazier. Georgia Tech got a win on a epic comeback here. They were down 14 right after a kickoff return with 10 minutes left. And it's like, how do you come back for that? And with 40 seconds left, they get the game winner on a pick 6. So another just ridiculous game. This game was kind of boring. Penn State, remember, they benched Terrell Pryor and put in their higher-ranked quarterback, Verlo is what it's pronounced, and they got a gritty win over a Kentucky team. Michigan State, they remain only 1 loss here as they got taken to overtime by Michigan, but McBurnfinger came through when they needed him most, and they got the win squeaking past Southern Miss. Kind of a boring game. ECU, once again, we went over it last week, but Heisenberg 1, 2, and 3 touchdowns. So 6 touchdowns now in his last 2 games. He is on absolute fire heading down the stretch, and this ECU team is hot. And then this game, that was on BearCave. Iowa State and Coach Ron got taken to the wire. Unfortunately, we had a glitch in BearCave where like the helmets were like turning into like 20-foot long like spikes and forcing everybody off sides. So I had to restart my my client, and we didn't get to see the end of this game, unfortunately. But it turned out Eastern Michigan tied it up. Time expired to send it to OT, but double overtime, Iowa State gets it done, and they are still alive in their division as well. Baylor, once again, just another blowout. We've seen that before. And Arizona State, we've seen this before. They just get hot and they run through the Pac-12. Looks like the similar thing as well. I think in general this season scoring is up. We've seen so many 50-plus point games this week, 40-plus games. Defense is becoming very, very hard to do, as here was an upset. Flipper Masters, the dream freshman campaign is over. He threw a pick 6. And Charlotte gets a huge win at home. Toledo, nice little win there. Army beats Air Force. NC State takes out North Carolina in the disappointing North Carolinian schools. Boston College still is popping off. Georgia Southern wins, and this was a rivalry game. We will check to see if Daddy Jeff Driscoll was hurt. Utah continues to handle their business. I want to talk about this game. This game means nothing in the grand scheme of the SFA, but look how Boise State loses. Okay, so they're down, right? And they get an 80-yard touchdown as time is expiring with 1 second left, and they miss the field goal to tie. They didn't even go for 2 for the win. They straight up were going to push to overtime, and they shank the extra point. That is just gut-wrenching. That is 1 in 7 in just... That's so depressing if you're a Boise State fan. California continues to pop off. UNLV gets a nice little win, so they went from 0-4 to 4-4. They are currently the kings of the Mountain West, winning it last year. Houston, this team is scary. I'm ECU, if you guys don't already know, and this is the only team really now on my back for the G5 auto bid. And I mean, if they keep winning, they have the wins to potentially get in even with me. So we could have 2 G5s in the playoffs this year. Tulane got a nice little victory. This game was another one that was hit by the glitch. Rice was up 2, and then they got a kind of a free touchdown here off a glitch, and then LA Tech then got a free touchdown off a glitch. And so, I mean, it really kind of balanced out, but Rice ended up getting the upset anyways. Luckily for LA Tech, though, they still have Houston on the schedule, so if they win out, they'll still be fine. But yeah, just one of those rough little things that nobody can predict and nobody can fix when the game's actually happening. Kansas State gets a nice little win. Northwestern continues to shine, so they had a few hiccups, but it looks like they are for real. And this was game day. Unfortunately, we had game day crash at halftime. It crashed when Texas A&M was up 14-10, and then when we did the resim, it was 3-0 at half. So really not much of a difference in how these teams performed as far as like against each other. It's just there was a severe lack of scoring in the second sim, and it was pretty bad on both ends. And then at the end, we had a screen glitch with a blue square popping up in the top left. If you watch the highlight video, that should be posted before this, and see it, that's why there's a blue square. Like, it just popped up randomly in the fourth quarter on the Nate Robinson touchdown, and it did propel Ole Miss, oddly enough, to tie the game. And then, unfortunately, obviously, as time expired, Texas A&M was able to win it. And so, really a big upset there. Everyone thought Ole Miss was for real. San Diego State continues to pop off. Nevada is surprisingly 4-0 in conference play, so watch out for them. And a huge upset here, Akron over Miami, Ohio. And then we had an overtime game here for Rutgers. Marshall has kind of fallen off in that division. Georgia cleans up. Memphis cleans up. BYU continues to score a ton of points. Notre Dame finally gets back in the win column. Same thing with Colorado, just continued to dominate. Nebraska finally gets back in the win column against a Missouri team who's just been without their starting QB all season, so kind of a rough season. Clemson got upset, if you want to call it an upset, but Syracuse gets a 10-point win at home. Vanderbilt gets their second win in a row. A wild game here, just back and forth in the fourth quarter, and somehow Vandy has now won 2 weeks in a row. They're 2-6, keeping bowl eligibility alive. Arizona, they get a nice little win here over Stanford. Bowling Green's looking a bit scary there in the MAC. Watch out for them. And we had an overtime here game. The Coach Boers storyline has kind of been pretty entertaining. He started out either 0-3 or 1-3, and then he somehow battled back to 5-5 with the leading rusher in the country, Rocket Sanders, and one of the, if not the toughest schedule. All of his out-of-conference games are SEC games, so it's like very, very tough because they are in the Big 12 in this universe. Ohio State just clapped Maryland. This game was over in the first minute. They scored 28 in the fourth quarter, including a punt return as time expired. Coastal in the paint and security. Hermanos get up back in the win column and back even. They could still make a bowl game. Poor Arkansas State having some trouble, honestly, with having some trouble this season. We all thought that they would be good, and they've just had a truly disappointing, very, very disappointing season. The Battle of the Unbeatens, Utah State does beat UTEP, so it looks like Utah State probably won't be in the shit bowl now, but we will see. It's looking like it's going to be UTEP in Ohio. Alabama 56-13, just smacking LSU, who is terrible in this universe. Florida back on track after the tough loss last week. Iowa gets a big win. Duke surprisingly leads the division 4-2 in conference. They are kind of popping off. And New Mexico gets a gritty win, and watch out for them. They're up to 7-2. And Western Michigan keeps winning up to 7-1. So definitely some crazy things are happening around the country. Let's take a look at the players of the week, though. Starting it off, obviously, the quarterback, 8 touchdowns, 554 yards, or 44 yards. You're never going to top that. You know, Travion Boykin obviously was the person for this. Coach Dave and Penn State, he gets honors for Rodney McGraw. And then the ACC, you got Marcus Davis, SFA player, 5 touchdowns. It's going to be crazy. Same Big Ten. They swept it this week. And then you got Kansas, and then you got Colorado. 6 touchdowns, 400 yards. Like I say, scoring is up, and so is QB performances, which might translate over into the Heisman race. Bo Wallace, he doesn't really have the yards this season, but a lot of touchdowns, all going to Heimlich pretty much. Adam Thomas, 10 receptions, 80 yards, but 4 touchdowns for Houston. BYU sweeps these awards. 5 more touchdowns for Conover. And Buffalo, their defensive end, gets 2 sacks and 5 TFLs as Brett Huntley gets back in the weekly race. 4 touchdowns for him. Mountain West, Adam Washington did have a pick 6. And Caleb Mara, the tight end, has 3 TDs, which is pretty rare. Forced fumble for Arizona State, and Jaquindon Jackson finally is healthy this year, and Utah's kind of popping off despite their schedule. Nate Robinson, 5 touchdowns, they keep it going. Tyrell Davis, Ty Lyles, and then we're back here. And then let's check out the league leaders. We'll go to stats. So these are your top 5. Conover kind of has a huge lead, almost 300 yards. Boykin's still up there. Lou Ishire's up there, but the top 3 are pretty much separating themselves. I mean, then Kiko at 5. Rushing, Rocket Sanders, Godfrey, Goodwin, Porter, and Mick Burnfinger is still up there at number 5. Receiving, important note is Brent Boozler. We've seen him up here all season long. On game day, he had 2 catches for 12 yards, so that's definitely going to knock him down the pedal stool. And he is out of the top 5. No more SFA receivers, but a few SFA teams. Tackle leaders, same old. Michigan State actually pops up to the top 5, but Vinny Sinceri is the only SFA player. Sack leaders, no SFA players, but all pretty much SFA teams besides Akron. Interceptions, Diaz Fernandez gets up to 7, but a lot of guys are now up to 6, so it's definitely a fight for the interception lead. And kicking has not changed. Roberto Aquayo does lead there. But we are at week 10, so you know what that means is that we have some awards semifinalists. So these can definitely change a lot. The Maxwell right now would go to Kai Milner, best quarterback. Walter Camp, Johnny Manziel. The best defensive player, William Mohan for Tennessee. And you can see all of the people currently going after it. So Garfield, you got Houston. Milner winning another one. He's having a good year. Cam Porter winning the Walker. The Balentikoff going to Alan Hearns. So currently that's the only SFA player winning one right now. Heisenberg, that's what he should be. But it's Heimlich Heisenberg. He is in that 4th, so watch out for him. Eric Ebron, another SFA player, currently at the top of the list. He's a 98 overall. He got up to 99 because he's on a hot streak, but he will most likely win that one. just going through these quickly, not really seeing any other SFA players at the top of these lists. Surprised we haven't seen Fork. He's kind of had a down year this year. And kicking wise, don't really see our guys. And then once again here at the Jet, don't see any SFA players. So that's how the awards are shaking out right now. A lot of user teams, a lot of, we have a lot of active users now. So, and we'll take a look at the toughest places to play, see how this is aged. So Ohio State is up to, or still at 1. Miami, Ohio must have lost at home. They did to Akron, so that double-digit home win streak is gone. Tennessee, they did not lose at home, so they're still up there. And then MTSU also did not lose at home. And then you have BC, and then Michigan State and ECU both get up there into the top 5. As far as the worst places to play, you got obviously the Rose Bowl, the best venue but the worst home field advantage, I guess. Virginia Tech, who beat Florida State on the road and then lost 7 straight. UNC, App State, and Ball State. Not much you can say about these teams, all pretty bad this season. And now it's time to take a look at the rankings. The CFP poll and the top 25 poll are the same. This is the first week of the playoff committee, so these rankings were created as a collective. If you want to know who's in the committee, it is Jay Jettas, Llama, Dogwater, Fink, and Ron. But if any of them can't make it, then myself and Nick will be alternates. This week we both had to be alternates. If you want to watch the playoff committee and watch us create these rankings, the video's already posted probably a day or two ago before this goes out. But Ohio State up at number 1, you really can't argue that. Boston College finally gets up to number 2. They are still undefeated. Florida stays pat at 3 from last week. And then you got Baylor 4, probably one of the, if not the best one-loss team. Michigan State right behind them only because of the head-to-head, that wonderful 3 overtime game we saw earlier in the season. California is impressing everyone this year. And then East Carolina, myself, the G5, undefeated. These are the only 3 undefeated teams left in the country, by the way, so all in the top 10 now. Texas A&M, after a big game day, gets up to 8. They finally get some respect. Utah and Colorado have been disrespected a little bit. People are wary of their schedules and don't really believe in them. Tennessee, they went from 2 to 11, but the committee still felt like they were the best 2-loss team in the country, and they do have the head-to-head over Ole Miss, so we had to honor that. Plus, they have 2 more wins, but Ole Miss is there. Houston, number 13, a really impressive G5. I really think that they have a chance to make the CFP with the 1 loss if they win out, because they'll have some very high-quality wins in their division. Northwestern, surprisingly up here at this time. I don't think anybody would have predicted that, but they're having a fantastic season. They are the only team in the country that almost beat Ohio State this year. They took them to overtime. Iowa State at 15. Nebraska back up to 16, so the coaches didn't really like them, but the playoff committee really did, as they really made a statement this week up against Missouri. Arizona State, they do what they do. They're always up around here. Kansas, Illinois, and then Louisiana Tech, who did have the tough loss to Rice, and Miami, who is the lowest ranked 2-loss team. So Miami, I guess we're not really impressed with, mainly because of the lack of good records really in the ACC. You got Alabama, the first 3-loss team. Georgia, Alabama does have the head-to-head over Georgia, despite Georgia having probably a little bit better of a resume, but we felt like Alabama was probably a little bit above them. And then Minnesota, surprising to me, got ranked here. I didn't really have them up there, but the rest of the committee was pretty impressed with them. And then finally, Buffalo. I mean, they start out 0-3. You lose to ECU by 3 opening up the year. You lose to BYU by, I believe, 8, who is a very good offensive team. And then you also lose to Southern Miss, who at the beginning of the season was popping off, and they're also 5-3, so that, that's not the worst. But the real kicker is 5 straight wins, all blowouts of MAC teams. You beat Miami, Ohio, who is ranked, and then you beat Tennessee, the number 2 team in the country. We just felt like that was way too good to not put rank at 25. They'll probably drop out. This is more of a, congratulations, here's your rank for the week. But Buffalo's definitely moving the needle in the right direction in terms of their abilities. So they very well could make a bowl game this year. And now for the worst part of the week, we have injuries. So I don't have it in front of me this time, but I do know ECU did suffer an injury. Randy Watson, our star tight end, he has a high ankle sprain. Luckily, though, it was not that serious. So we will be sitting him out for the next few weeks, make sure he gets back. JJ Watt has been playing with that ankle, and he's been playing well, so he's back to 100%. Jawan Harvey is the other one. Iowa State loses their star running back for 3 weeks due to a broken thumb on his ball-carrying hand, having the best season of his career, already 12 touchdowns on the ground and an additional one through the air. So a tough loss for Iowa State, but he would be back for the Big 12 championship if they did make it there. I don't really remember the other big injuries. Here's a big one. Not really a big one, but Southern Miss, one of his depth running backs who probably plays out on the wing. He dislocated his elbow and is done for the year. That's one of the major injuries. I'm just making sure Arkansas, he has one more week on this injury, but I doubt he ever gets his starting job back. And then this is probably the other injury I wanted to go over. Arkansas State, like I said earlier, has had a rough go of it this year, and they tampered Jed Ford away from UAB. That's where he was transferring, and he gets hurt here. I mean, not a bad year, 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Just not enough production, honestly. Not enough scores. And now he's out for a few weeks with the strained Achilles. Luckily, it's not ruptured. It's not going to affect him long term. He is only a sophomore, so he will still have 2 years of eligibility. So luckily, this isn't like a really, really bad injury. Boston College, no, they didn't have any. Honestly, not that many injuries this week. So we have been kind of skating around here. We've gone over them. Did Michigan? Yeah. So I believe Brandon Means broke his collarbone. That is a tough one for one of their starter defensive tackles. We saw Gio Bernard. I don't think there's any other SFA injuries. I did already go through them, but I just want to make sure I highlight in the video which ones are the most. I think this is pretty much it. San Diego State, they do lose one of their starting corners for 3 weeks with a bruised shoulder. I don't think Coach Hawk is going to be too pleased with that one either. A bruised shoulder, you just need to light that thing up with some Novocaine and get him out there. So there must be some extreme swelling to hold him out for 3 weeks. And that is going to do it for this week. Like I said, a absolutely wild game. Wild game on game day, just ridiculous things happening all over the place. And according to the poll in the Discord, week 11's game day is going to be Michigan State at Ohio State. You're going to have McBurnfinger against Ohio State. Can he be the one to bring them down? Oh yeah, we haven't checked the Heisman race, so we'll check that here. But this is going to be one hell of a game day. Who controls the division and controls the Big Ten title game. And finally, the Heisman race this week. Let's take a look. Banks McBurnfinger, he does stay up at the top. Marcus Davis, though, is coming for blood. I mean, if you look, he has 27 touchdowns and only 5 interceptions. He's kind of making moves. Milner did fall down despite having 3 touchdowns. Johnny Manziel himself had 5 more, so he is back up. And then a surprising entry here from Northwestern Cam Porter. They are having a great season. He did have a 3-touchdown day, but if you look at his numbers on the season, 1,207 yards is pretty good. 14 rush TDs and no receiving TDs. So if you compare that with McBurnfinger, who does have some nice defensive stats. He has a sack, a few forced fumbles, and a few recoveries, but he has 12 rushing touchdowns, not as many yards, but he does have 4 receiving touchdowns. So he's up by 2 on the touchdowns. He is below on the yards, but his defensive abilities probably are putting him a little bit over the top right now. But yeah, these videos are getting long, but there's so much to go over. The SFA is such a fun place. So once again, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you're new here and you want to coach a team, or even if you just want to experience all this stuff happening in real time and talking to the coaches, join the Discord. The link is in the description. We stream everything and gets posted to this YouTube channel. But yeah, I really appreciate you guys watching the channel and supporting it. So thank you guys for watching.